Hello and welcome to our viewers here on TRSTV, on YouTube, as well as Channel 21 in Comcast areas and Channel 26 in Verizon areas. This is a very exciting year for the political and legal education program at Toms River High School East, because we're taking the 2019 election cycle and bringing it right to you with two town hall style events featuring both the Democratic and Republican candidates for mayor and council. Today we start with the Democratic nominees for mayor and council in Toms River. We're very pleased to have with us today Toms River lawyer Jonathan Petro. He is the managing partner of Carluccio, Leone, Diamond, Doyle, and Sachs, also the former chairman of both the Toms River Chamber of Commerce and Ocean County Library Foundations. We also have Mrs. Michelle Williams. She is a member of the Toms River Board of Education, a delegate to the NJSBA and the insurance committees. She's also the former principal at St. Joseph Grade School here in Toms River. And we also have attorney Karen Sage, who is an attorney shareholder of the business and commercial litigation at Williams, Goldman, and Spitzer. She was also selected for inclusion in the New Jersey Super Lawyers Rising Stars for the years 2013 through 2018. Not in attendance with us today is candidate Drew Boyle. He is a teacher at Brick Township Middle School. He has a master's degree in educational leadership and is also a camp counselor at Camp Discovery, Toms River School District's summer program for special needs students. We are going to have a student-centered event here today. The students have prepared their questions and they are ready to bring them to the candidates for mayor and council. And we're going to start this event off with Miko with a question on development.
With development happening all over town, do we have the infrastructure to keep up with the modernization of current neighborhoods without significant fee increases?
Before I actually answer your question, first of all, thank you all for being here. And we really appreciate being invited to come back to my alma mater. I was a Raider and graduated here a long time ago, so we'll just skip over that. But to answer your question, first of all, I don't believe we have the infrastructure yet. We do have the ability potentially to get there, but with the overdevelopment, particularly in the northern parts of our town, the infrastructure is just not there yet. I use Route 9 as an example with some of the development that's happening there, and that is a state road, so we need to work with the state in order to have any expansion of Route 9. So that's just one example of certain things that we don't have yet, but we could get there. It's just going to take some work. Unfortunately, some of the buildings and the new developments that have been approved, unfortunately, the die has been cast, and we now need to react to that. So the new mayor is going to have to deal with some of those issues as we expand the roads to make sure that we provide for traffic patterns to effectively get people where they need to be in our town.
Okay, our next question comes from Alexander Zanakis, and his question is dealing with downtown Toms River.
What would you like to see as the finished product for downtown Toms River in the future?
I'll field this one because I have an office downtown, and I have a very vested interest, obviously, in improving our downtown area. It's unfortunate that we have gotten to a point where we have empty buildings that need to be filled. I don't believe that we could get there and make downtown Toms River as vibrant of a community as it can be without new businesses, new restaurants, new shops, to make it more of a tourist destination, or at least making sure that at 5 o'clock when the businesses close, that people stay around for the restaurants and the culture that we have. We've laid some groundwork for culture, which will be helpful in downtown Toms River. And if you see, we have festivals down there often, and we need to promote those better and get more people visiting. But I think it starts with business, not with residents. And the idea of building 8 to 10 story buildings is a concern I have, especially if it blocks the riverfront. We have a natural resource here that we don't fully utilize, and we can look to other towns like Red Bank, for example, to better utilize our riverfront, make sure we have a river walk, and provide for additional restaurants and places to visit downtown that utilize that area.
In addition, Jonathan has said other times that we need to look at other cities, other towns that have revitalized their downtown. As Jonathan was speaking, I was thinking of Point Pleasant, and Asbury Park, Red Bank, and we need to look to other areas, as you say. Always look to. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. Go and see how they've done it. They've been successful.
Exactly, and asking their mayors and their leaders how they did it would be helpful, and making sure that we have great relationships with those other towns. I'm a big believer that if one town is doing well at the Jersey Shore, we all will do well. We'll become more of a destination. Tourism is a huge aspect of our revenue, and we need to make sure we support that.
Okay, our next question comes from Maddie, and her question is on the Ciba-Geigy site.
Okay, so what can citizens expect with a proposed solar farm on the Ciba-Geigy site? And if this does go through, how can the energy from it be used to benefit Toms River?
The Ciba-Geigy site, I know most of the people in this room are significantly younger than us up here, but even when I was a child, the Ciba-Geigy site was a very sensitive issue around town, and it should be. It's always been a concern we've had, and the idea of having a solar site there where we have a solar field, as long as it's non-invasive and not in the most toxic areas, it actually would be a great use of that property, I believe. And I think that we can use that land that's around the worst sites that are on that property. It's a huge piece of property, by the way. Would be the best way to utilize that, while also acknowledging that, unfortunately, we can't do anything too invasive. We can't obviously have people living there. We can't have children playing there. This would be a better use for that land, and also provide for some energy that we could use very, very well in town.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Esmeralda has a question regarding the school state funding formula.
Do you have any plans to challenge the state's funding formula that will rip millions of dollars from our schools?
As you know, I'm currently on the school board. This is my second year, and actually I brought with me the editorial from the Asbury Park Press today, which is supporting us. It says, "Don't hide the school aid formula." What are we doing right now? We are in a lawsuit with other school districts, trying to force the state to show us what this formula is. They're not coming across with it. We've asked for the formula, and so they have said no. They say it's proprietary. So because it's it's a formula built-in technology. But if it's paid for by our taxes, then it belongs to us. So we should see and know what it is. We know in Toms River right now, we lost this year $2.8 million, and we had to make changes. Hopefully, not so much that it's affected you. Next year, $5.2 million. Then the next year, $7 million. That's going to be devastating. We can't let it happen. What we have to do on the council is exactly what our superintendent is doing. He's on the phone almost every day with people in Trenton, and that's what we need to do. I say that I would rather, I don't want to be the council person that you're going to see in the paper taking pictures all the time with the shovel, cutting the ribbon. If you're going to take a picture of me, then I want you to see me knocking on doors in Trenton, because we have to work with them. They have to work with us, because otherwise it's going to devastate our schools, and we can't let that happen.
Okay, our next question, Elizabeth has a question on our current opioid crisis.
What is your plan in combating the serious opioid crisis that we have in Toms River?
I think actually Michelle can speak to this too, but the opioid crisis we're having right now is stealing our neighbors from us. I think everybody in this room probably knows somebody who has died or who is going through, hopefully, recovery, but it has significantly affected my generation for sure, and I'm sure it's affecting your generation, and that's unfortunate. When we were in high school, drugs was an issue, but not like it is today. We weren't losing as many people as frequently. I think there has to be a coalition put together with the police, Toms River Police, the hospital here, Community Medical Center, the town council, and our mayor's office to make sure that when we have a situation where somebody needs to be rescued, both if they overdose, and making sure that they're rescued, but then also getting them into a program where we don't have to be concerned about having to rescue them again or Narcan them again. Our chief of police has made this a very targeted and specific part of his goals for the next few years, which is laudable, and we should support him, but also making sure we're supporting our community organizations like Hope Sheds Light and working with them to bring some type of solution to this. Again, I believe that there are different parts that can happen along the way, making sure that people first don't start to use, but then when they use, make sure that they have facilities available to them that they can then work through and get to recovery. Another thing to be said is families should be involved in that process as well. One of the benefits I have of working with Hope Sheds Light and some of their leaders is they understand that it's not just the addict who needs to be treated. It is often the family members, their children, their spouses, and they need to be taught how to work with the addict and their family so that they can best protect themselves and of course, that person. And Michelle can speak to this as well.
It's hit my family. Two of my brothers. I'm the oldest with 4 brothers after me, and my 2 youngest brothers both died of their drug addiction. And this goes back to 1970 when we were growing up. At that time, you had to be arrested to get help. I remember trying to help my brother and my mother trying to find this. Well, there's nothing you could do until you're arrested. That has changed, but it's still not where it needs to be. My other brother died in 2017. Mark died of AIDS, of his drug use in about 25 years ago. David, in his 50s, died in 2017. So that's a whole life of recovery and then fighting it and then falling down again. He died of an overdose with something mixed with the fentanyl. And it is a terrible burden and sadness on the family, as Jonathan said. And maybe back then, you just suffer the pain. There wasn't that support for the family. What should we do? We need a whole array of supports so that if an individual starts to feel like they're okay, my brother David would say, after about 5 or 6 years, I'm okay, I'm okay. I could stop at the bar and just have a little drink. It's okay. And then he said, I would find myself driving up north to buy something. So it's not okay. So we need more of those supports out there so that people can go and seek that assistance. As Jonathan said, it needs to be 3-pronged. Everybody working together, everyone working together.
I agree with that, and I think it has to start also when children are young. I'm a mother of 3 small boys, and it's terrifying for me to see the drug problems that are going on and thinking that my kids are going to be in that situation and having to make the right decision not that far in the future. I think education is key. It starts in the beginning, and parents really have to be involved as well.
We recognize now that there is, and you probably have it in class, social emotional learning, cell lessons. I know that they've started in the elementary and the middle school. I don't know if it's hitting the high school, but social emotional learning will allow us to focus on good self-esteem, because statistics show that you could have all the anti-drug programs, but once you take the focus off of that, it's lost. So instead of doing anti, let's do pro. Let's learn how to build ourselves up, how to encourage each other, and to grow in that way. So that would be a positive way to eliminate the problems that we have.
Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Now we have Garrett with a question on neighborhoods.
So many of our neighborhoods in town lack sidewalks to keep both cyclists and walkers safe when traveling. How might you address this issue?
I think
Technically, homeowners are responsible for sidewalks. A lot of times townships will reach out to neighborhoods and try to facilitate repairs, but the cost would still fall on the homeowner. There are some grants and programs like New Jersey Department of Transportation, Safe Street to Transit, grant where they will actually help neighborhoods put in sidewalks to provide for safe walking areas. So we can try to look to some of those options.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have Amanda with a question about some renewable energy sources.
Would you support placing electric car charging stations around town?
Yeah, the short answer is yes.
Yes.
And the other, we always talk about what can we get as far as grants so the taxpayers aren't paying for these things. And this is a good example. There are state and federal grants that can be given to Toms River to put in charging stations. You see them popping up in private locations, but really in our public spaces we should have them. And all it takes is asking a lot of times. And unfortunately, I find that we haven't been proactive either in our municipal government or even some of our county government to go to the state, go to the federal government and get these grants so we can make these improvements. We're trending towards having more and more electric cars, and making sure that we can supply that for our citizens is going to be a step to making us more energy conscious, of course, and provide for more efficiency overall.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Logan, who has a question about something right in his neighborhood.
Hello, I live in the Water's Edge condo complex right on Fisher Boulevard near Hooper. Would you consider placing a traffic light at the intersection where it juts out into Hooper to prevent all the traffic that can build up there and cause accidents?
So I've lived here for 40 years, my whole life, and the Water's Edge has always been an issue as far as the going in and going out, especially if you're coming from from Hooper. And yeah, I would be in support of that overall, because there are a good number of people that are turning in there, and traffic does back up, especially when you're heading in towards Silverton there. So it's definitely something we would look into and see if we can get that done. There are several places around town where we need to look at our safety, to look at whether we need stop signs, whether we need to change our speed limits, and that is something when we get into office we would definitely look to do.
Thank you.
All right, next we have Gavin, who has an environmental fact and a question to back that up.
Okay, so if you didn't know, 1 square foot of moss is better at filtering CO2 from the atmosphere than 500 grown trees. So my question is that, would you support people in planting moss in new construction projects?
I think that's a great question,
Yeah.
and it's not something I've considered, to be very honest with you. But I know that some of my neighbors have started to convert over to moss because it's easier to take care of, and it's still green, it still looks great, and that's a great option for us. I think we need to look to be environmentally conscious in any of our construction these days, making sure we are providing for energy efficiency, and also making sure that we're doing what we can do. We live in a very environmentally sensitive area. We have the bay, we have the river. Going over the Barrier Island by Ortley, we have the ocean. So we need to do what we can do to make sure that we're not damaging the earth any more than we already have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, there was one question that one of our students had, but they are absent today, and their question centered around taxes and the fact that it seems like everywhere taxes seem to be going up. Do you have any plans for alternative revenue streams to combat future tax increases?
I think it's a combination of working with our state. You can't just throw your hands up in the air and say taxes are high because we live in New Jersey. There are options that we have as far as increasing the number of businesses that we have that increase our ratables, not necessarily through high density housing, because they tend to pay fewer taxes than some of the other homes that we have here. That is not the solution. Asking the state and making application for certain grants will help us as far as tax benefits for our citizens. But again, those ratables, having businesses that come in that then pay, where we don't have to include additional infrastructure for homes, would make a difference in the long term.
I believe members of the board currently have started a program, Lori Hork on the board. It's a debit card that she's trying to get members of the community to use. You would put money on the card, and then if shops in our town would agree to work with you. For instance, you may spend $100. The cost is $100, but $10 of that would go back to you, but not directly to me. It goes off my taxes. So isn't that a good deal? It's like a win-win. So what she's trying to do, and Terrence on the board as well, is to get other businesses downtown, like for instance, Capone's on it. All right, and I don't know any offhand the others that are, but if they could get more and more businesses, let's say if you had a store like a Home Depot or a ShopRite, well, you know, you have to buy groceries all the time. Imagine how you can. So it cuts down on your taxes. So that is one alternative.
And I think Brick has a similar program like that, and they've had great success in getting a lot of new businesses into that area.
And this comes back to the idea of we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can look to other towns that are doing things the right way and, frankly, steal some of their ideas. See if they'll work in Toms River, because some things that work maybe in Red Bank may not work in Toms River. Some things that work in Brick may not work in Toms River. But taking a look, seeing if it will work here, and bringing it in would be beneficial to all of our citizens. And, frankly, these systems have been tested in other places. So we're not coming up with things out of the blue. Again, I'm a big believer in sharing our ideas with other towns, communing with them, and making sure that we get together and make sure we're benefiting all the towns here at the Jersey Shore.
And I think you guys mentioned Point Pleasant Borough before in one of your opening comments.
Yes.
They, I believe, have a rebate program just
They
like
do.
the one you're describing. Now we have our lightning round with Eric, and he is going to, we're going to have a little fun with this now.
Okay.
So it's,
Go,
no worries,
loosen up a
just
little
go
bit.
ahead, Eric.
All right, how you doing? All right, first question. Would you rather regular cake or ice cream cake?
Ice cream cake.
Ice cream cake.
Good choice.
Yeah.
Would you rather pork roll or Taylor ham? What would you prefer?
Same
What do you
thing.
call it? What do you call it?
Taylor
What do you call it?
ham.
Taylor ham?
What?
Pork roll.
Taylor.
Where are you from?
Call it pork roll or Taylor
I'm
ham?
from Hudson County.
Michelle's from North Jersey. No,
Yes,
it is
as
pork
you
roll.
can see from my voice.
If you go anywhere, it's a pork roll, egg, and cheese.
Right.
And it's on a Kaiser roll.
All right. Bon Jovi or Springsteen?
Springsteen.
Bon Jovi.
Oh, Michelle, Springsteen. Springsteen is the champ.
Would you rather go to a movie or binge watch a show?
Movie. I'm a movie guy.
I'd binge watch.
Binge watch.
Binge watch. And last but not least, can we get a Chick-fil-A in Toms River?
Yes.
I would love to have a
Yes.
Chick-fil-A in Toms River.
Yes, we would
I
like
think
to
we
see a
all
lot
would.
of stores in Toms River. We would like to, and Jonathan has spoken about that and how that happens and how it doesn't happen, which is what we have.
And I'm the former chairman of the Greater Toms River Chamber of Commerce, and we consistently look to see what other businesses we can bring in and also see which businesses we may have here in Toms River that haven't yet joined the chamber. Chick-fil-A is a great option, of course, for us. I think we would need to work with some other businesses as well to bring in. And again, you're looking to some other businesses that are going into Bricktown that could very easily be here, and they're not.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, that concludes our PLE Town Hall event with the Democratic candidates for mayor and council in Toms River. We'd like to thank Jonathan Petro, candidate for mayor, as well as Michelle Williams and Karen Sage for joining us here. Also remember Drew Boyle. He is a teacher in another town. He was not able to join us here today, but they are your Democratic candidates for Toms River government. We thank you for watching us here on TRSTV. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.